We've gotten to page 19 on the book, but I want to go back and just a quick review of, we had mentioned that we're not our own, a Christian belongs to God. And the book mentions 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 19 and 20. And for your coded color pleasure, the words in red are plural, the words in blue are singular. So know ye, plural, not, that your, plural, body, singular, your body, is the temple, again singular, of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, plural, all of you, which ye, all of you, have of God, and ye, plural, are not your, plural, own. For ye, or all of you, are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your, all of your, singular body. And in your, all of you, spirit, singular, which are God's. Brother Harold Luttrell wrote in his notes, body is singular. He says in verse 15, we have your bodies, plural, each person's physical body. However, in verse 19, it is body singular, of you, plural. The only body meeting this description is the church. Ephesians 1, 22 and 23, which is the temple of God, 1 Corinthians 3:16 and 2 Corinthians 6:16. And he's right about that. The only thing that would meet what Paul is actually writing here is that all of you are members of the one body, the church. And that body belongs to God. The body has been bought with a price. And so we, whether you're talking about the church or individuals, have been purchased by the blood of Christ. Acts 20 and verse 28 and Revelation 5 and verse 9, both of those deal with the aspect of the church being bought with a price. In Revelation 5:9, more the individual being bought with or redeemed by the blood of Christ. And because we belong to God, we mentioned we should be devoted to Him. And we ended up our class last time discussing Romans, the 6th chapter. Because really that chapter deals specifically with this very idea. You've been freed from sin, therefore use your body and the members of your body as instruments of righteousness unto God. So that brings us to where we are going to begin at this point. We are redeemed with the precious blood of Christ. And if you turn over to 1 Peter, the 1st chapter, and we'll read verses 18 and 19 in particular, where Peter writes, "Forasmuch as ye know that ye were not redeemed with corruptible things, as silver and gold, from your vain conversation received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Christ, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot." Let me mention a couple of things in relationship to what he writes here. Physical things could not redeem us. No matter how precious, silver, gold, from your vain, and what would vain be? Worthless, having no value. Conversation is your manner of life. But notice, received by tradition from your fathers. This type of a lifestyle has been handed down from generation to generation to generation, and on it goes. All the way even to us today. If you look at our world, that's the type of world that we live in. People who are living a worthless life. No matter how much value they might think that they have, they're lost, they're undone, they're living a worthless life. Anyone who is not a faithful Christian, who has not been redeemed by the blood of Christ, is living a worthless life. It is a life that is no value. And so, while silver and gold, the precious things of this world, could not redeem us, it is with the precious blood of Christ by which we're redeemed. And he mentions as a lamb without blemish and without spot. This reminds them of the Old Testament sacrifices. Those sacrifices that they made, especially on the Day of Atonement, the animals had to be totally without blemish. No spot, nothing wrong with them whatsoever. They were, if you want to call it, the best of the best as far as the animals are concerned. Well, that would be something different. If they were, if an animal happened to be sick on the inside without anything showing on the outside, or any actions that they take, then certainly they would not be held responsible for giving something that was inferior. Now, later on in Israel's history, they did offer inferior sacrifices. And the prophets called them out on that. They even said, you think your king would accept such as this? No. And yet you're willing to give it to God. And he says, basically, you're robbing God because you're not giving your best to him. The principle of the first fruits is an important principle that we see in the Old Testament and even in the New Testament. But in the Old Testament, when they recognize the first fruits belong to God, that is, it's the best, but also the very first ones. The first as far as priority, the first as far as number, with a promise of more to come. They ignored the first of those as far as priority, a value, and tried to give God the lesser value. I can remember my grandfather in teaching on giving, and it didn't really make too much of an impact on me when I was a little kid, but I still remember it. And he says, when you reach in to get your money, you get the very best money that you got. I thought as a little kid, why? What difference does it make? $1's a dollar. I mean, but it was a principle of the matter that I've learned to appreciate what he said. You're giving God the best. You're not giving him that which is the worst, even though it is of the same value. You give him the best. And that should always be our attitude. Christ was, in that sense, he was the best of heaven. And I know there's some controversy about the song that God looked in heaven and for the best. I don't remember the words right now, but we sing it every once in a while. And we sing it from the standpoint of figurative language. Yeah, he searched through heaven. Well, there wasn't a search that was made. It was a decision that the Godhead made even before they created the world. But we sing it figuratively that Jesus was the very best that could be offered. And so, why should we give anything other than our best?
Like that little song, whenever it's describing Jesus, you're all things and just all.
Yeah. It's a comparative aspect. And some have difficulty singing that song because they don't recognize that aspect. It's almost, it's difficult to find a song that there's not some type of controversy about. But Peter draws the conclusion that we should, because of the price paid for us, the precious blood of Christ, we should put away sin. And thus 1 Peter chapter 2 and verse 1. He mentions, wherefore laying aside all malice and all guile and hypocrisies and envies and all evil speakings. Is that raising a hand, Dale, or?
Yeah, what song were you talking? You know what song that Jesus gave it all this going on?
Paul, you're the song expert. Which were the two songs we were talking about?
I don't know.
I asked Paul, because he's...
I asked him maybe.
I don't remember exactly which one.
Off the top of your head, okay.
I don't remember the name of the songs either, but
Jesus love rode my soul.
That's one of them.
that was the one that...
Jesus gave it all.
No, not Jesus gave it all.
What was it? No, I found that one. I'm sorry.
Still relevant.
I apologize.
But because of the value of the sacrifice, in this case, the precious blood, here's all these precious gold, silver, the most valuable things, that were available to people. And gold, I mean, even today, how valuable is one small ounce? And it's something like $3,000, getting close to $3,000 or so. Something that of value. Here's the most valuable things on earth. And as a result of that price that was paid for us, we need to put away all sin. If you skip down to verse 11 of 1 Peter. He continues, dearly beloved, I beseech you, strangers and pilgrims. That's what we are in this world, strangers and pilgrims. Why? Because we have a heavenly citizenship. Philippians, the 3rd chapter. I've forgotten the verse. It seems like it's around verse 17 or so. But he says, because you're strangers and pilgrims in this world, abstain from fleshly lust which war against the soul. And going on through verse 17, having a conversation honest among the Gentiles, that whereas they speak evil against you as evildoers, they may by your good works which they shall behold glorify God in the day of visitation. Submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether it be as to the king as supreme, or unto governors, as unto them that are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers and for the praise of them that do well. Let me just stop here for a second and say something about this aspect. We are to submit ourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake. Who was the king at this time? Caesar who? Nero. He is an evil person. I think Tim mentioned in a sermon not too long ago, Fox's Book of Martyrs. Start reading some of that and what they did to Christians back then. It's just inhuman. And yet Peter is saying, obey them. Submit to them. We think we have it bad, and sometimes with our leaders, and seen anything close to what they had back then. And yet we are to still obey them. And then he goes, for so is the will of God, that with well-doing ye may put to silence the ignorance of a foolish man. In other words, you live such a life that when they speak evil against you, well, everybody will know it's not true because of the life that you live. As free and not using your liberty for a cloak of maliciousness, but as the servants of God. Honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the king. This is the type of lifestyle we are to be living. Then skip a few verses down to verse 21, and we'll go through verse 25. For even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that ye should follow in his steps, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth, who when he was reviled not again. When he suffered, he threatened not, but committed himself to him that judgeth righteously, who his own self bare our sins in his own body on the tree, that we, being dead to sin, should live unto righteousness, by whose stripes ye are healed. For ye were as sheep going astray, but are now returned unto the shepherd and bishop of your souls. Here's the life that we are to live. It's to be separate and apart from sin. And he ends that section with saying, here's the death of Christ. And you live that type of a lifestyle because of Christ. That is a good type of life. One that will bring glory and praise to God. And when anyone, as he puts it, ignorant and foolish men revile you, you'll live in such a way that everyone will know it's not true. And so we are either God's or the devil's. One or the other. Going back into the Old Testament, the blood of bulls and goats could not remove sin. Hebrews 10 and verse 4 shows us that for it is not possible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sin. And you look at all of that blood, 1,500 years about, from the time of Moses to the time of Christ. Gallons upon gallons, probably tons of blood, all shed, and not a bit of it could take away even one sin.
Imagine how much blood was shed was given by the Lamb whenever Solomon made all the sacrifices for the temple.
When Solomon finished that temple and they consecrated it, the amount of blood that would have been shed on that day would have been just outrageous. We would be, and yet not a bit of it could take away even the smallest of sins. And yet, Hebrews the 9th chapter and verse 22 tells us that almost all things are by the law purged with blood. And without shedding of blood, there is no remission. Have to have the shedding of blood for there to be forgiveness or remission of sins. Yet all of this blood, from, you could say, Cain and Abel, all the way to Christ, all of that bloodshed could not take away even the smallest of sins. But yet blood had to be shed. And we find, as we saw in 1 Peter, the first chapter and verse 18, that riches and wealth, the most valuable things upon this earth, could not redeem us. And yet blood had to be shed. There was no price, not any price, that the sinner could pay to redeem himself. If we gained all of the riches in this world, and isn't that what Christ's question was all about? What is man's soul worth? What if he should gain the whole world and lose his own soul? What is it worth? Nothing. If you gained all of the riches that this world had to offer, could not redeem yourself, would not be of any value to you. If Christ had not died upon the cross to redeem or to purchase us, then we could not be servants of God. We could not be children of God. We would be separate from him, we would be apart from him, and there would be no hope that we would have. We would belong to the devil. We would be his, because there would be nothing to redeem us. And we would be servants of sin forever, with only an eternal torment awaiting us. But Jesus, can we use the phrase, stepped up to the plate? And he came to this world and paid the price for us. Angels couldn't do it. Riches and wealth couldn't do it. We could not do it. The only thing that could do it was the blood of Christ. And therefore we as Christians belong to him. We are to be devoted to God. We are to keep the commandments. We are to flee from sin, all sin, even the smallest, insignificant things that we think are insignificant. If they're sin, we have to flee from them. We classify sins a lot of times. How many of us classify lying? But yet, all liars will have their part in the lake of fire, is what we're told. Not only those who tell the big whoppers, and those who tell the little white lies, as we call them, they'll get by. I mean, that doesn't really matter, does it? Yeah, it does. They're still a liar. And all liar. Well, that's just to make the point is that even the smallest of things that we think of, if they're sinful, then we've got to flee from it. We've got to put away all sin. Go back to 1 Peter 1 and verse, or not 1, but chapter 2 and verse 1. And look at that again. Wherefore, laying aside what? Lay aside malice. All malice. And all guile. And hypocrisies. And envyings. And all evil speakings. I wish our society would sure learn that last one. I wish Christians would learn that last one. All evil speaking. Because our society's language is atrocious. And it has affected Christians as well.
That includes gossip and everything else.
It would include gossip, or back talking, and
Food slander, all that stuff.
That's one thing that occurred to me about our official president, because talking, he throws in these little words.
yeah.
That's good, that's how it grows. Bigger, bigger, bigger. That bothers me, that
And it should bother us.
you should be Christian president, you just talk.
Right. The president, as a representative of the people, did not speak like that. At least not in public. That's gone the way of so many other things. Because now then officials don't care about their language anymore. Whether it be the president, vice president, senators, representatives, and you can keep going all the way down. They don't care about how they speak. But all evil speaking be put away from the Christian. Person in the world should be able to say that the Christian is an oddball by the way in which he speaks, because he doesn't speak like everybody else. But do they? That's the question. Do we practice evil speaking? Our duty is to glorify God, that one who bought us, who purchased us. Matthew 5:16, at the end of what we, after giving the Beatitudes as we refer to them, he talks about first salt, and then talks about you're the light of the world. Are we the light of the world, or are we just like the world? Have you ever heard anyone say to one who's not a Christian, well, all you need to do is be baptized? Well, no. It has to change his life. Now then, let's face it, a lot of people are not willing to make that change. They want to receive the reward, but they don't want to put forth the effort to receive it. I guess they think it should just be given to us because of how great they are. Oh, no. We have to put forth the effort, the work that is to be involved in order to receive the the gift. Remember in that great invitation, Matthew the 11th chapter, verse 28 through 30, "Come to me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." We want that rest, don't we? On heaven's home. But we don't want to take his yoke upon us and learn of me, Jesus says, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me. Don't want to put forth that effort. We want the rest, but I don't really want to put forth the effort to take his yoke and learn of him. So we've got to glorify God. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. When the world looks at us, do they see someone who is a Christian? Do they see a light shining in a world of darkness? And as a result, glorify God? Or do they see someone who's just like everybody else? I believe, and this is my opinion, you can disagree with it all you want to, you'll be wrong, but that's okay. That one of the reasons we have such a difficult time converting others to Christ is because we don't live with that purity and that dedication that God expects. In the book, I believe it's The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, that was written by Edward Gibbon, he talked about Christians and the spread of Christianity. I think there were 5 different things that he mentioned as to promoting the spread of Christianity, and one of those things was the purity of life of those who are Christians. It makes a difference. And it makes a difference when someone doesn't, and you try and go and convert an individual who sees someone who's not living the Christian life, and he's saying in his mind, well, I live just as good as so-and-so over there. Now then, what are you going to do? How are you going to convert that individual? There's an obstacle that has been placed in the way that is almost unget-overable. So the conclusion of this lesson, when we're tempted to sin, we need to think of the cross. How that Jesus shed his blood, his precious blood for us. But if Jesus shed his blood to redeem us from sin and to bring us to a new life, then if we don't do that, or did Christ shed his blood in vain? The precious blood of Christ shed in vain because I've rejected it in one way or another. Satan is going to spread his allurements, his temptations before us. But when he does, think of the suffering of Christ, what he went through, that blood that he shed, both before the cross. Think of the scourging that he went through and endured, the crown of thorns. Think of the nail-pierced hands and feet, the blood that he shed, his sufferings.
I think a lot of times how Peter must have felt in Luke's account whenever he died in the 3rd time and Jesus turned to Luke and he saw that.
He looked and he went out and wept.
He went and cried.
Yeah, went out and cried.
That had to cut
But that should be the way it is with any sin that we commit.
Every time we sin, that's what he's doing.
And he sees us. He suffered that death and all of that pain and anguish so we might be a pure people. So that we can be what Christ in us, living in us. We need to always live that pure life, devoting our bodies, the members of our bodies, our entire being and soul to God, because of that precious blood of Christ which purchased us. So any questions or comments? I told somebody I would probably finish lesson 4, so just got through. Lesson 5. Then, in the book, has the kingdom come? The answer is yes. So let's go on to lesson 6. Yeah, y'all know better than that, don't you? Tim said that would be a miracle. No, there's a lot that we're going to have in this lesson. A lot that is not in the book. I'm going to add quite a bit in regards to this chapter. But we are going to look at the evidence as the book has in the proposition to observe the evidence which bears record of the church's divine position as the kingdom of God, and to answer the question invoked by the title. Isn't that a nice way of putting it? Is the kingdom, or has the kingdom come? Well, yes, it has. We're going to see that it is fulfilled in the church. And dispensational premillennialists, if they would ever admit that the kingdom has come, it would destroy their doctrine. Now, there are some historical premillennialists that would agree with us on this.
Mark 9:1 nails it down. It has come.
We'll get to all of those things and a lot more, but historical premillennialists would agree with it. Postmillennialists would also agree with the position that the church is the kingdom and that it has come. Dispensational premillennialists, which is what has really engulfed the religious world today, and it was popularized by Scofield. You remember hearing about Scofield Bible and how so many people had a Scofield Bible. Well, it taught that dispensational premillennial view. And then it was further advanced by the late great Planet Earth, by Hal Lindsey. And they basically denied that the kingdom has come. but even they cannot get away from many of the teachings of the Bible in relationship to that. And so they will admit that certain aspects of the kingdom are here and are seen in the church. But that really goes against their doctrine, which is the kingdom is yet future and will be established when Christ comes again to establish his millennial kingdom, which will happen, according to many, it started taking place in 1988. In fact, Hal Lindsey, in the first edition of his book, The Late Great Planet Earth, said that the time circle, or that time element, began when Israel became a nation again in 1948. And using Matthew 24, no, I ain't changing it, misusing Matthew 24, this generation, so within 40 years, because 40 years is a generation, thus you take 1948, you add 40 years to it, what do you get? 1988. That's when he set forth that kingdom would be established here upon this earth. By the second edition of his book, he realized the error of his way and he took that out. But we'll start looking at this, has the kingdom come, and looking at it, and so you might be looking at that chapter for next week.